if I'm envisioning my future of, okay, what do I want life to look like? What do I want my house to be? What do I want my kids to be talking about and to be experiencing? What do I want our dynamic to be? What clothes do I want to be wearing? What do I want my day to look like? That feeling is so awesome. I don't want to not experience. What steps do I need to start making right now so I get that? And now let's get into the functions of how we actually do this. Let's start the podcast by going back and forth, singing tidbits of songs about money. Go. First song that comes to your head.
What? I'm sorry. I don't sing.
Well, we were getting ready for this. I was like, cool. We're going to talk about money. And all I could hear was a song from Mamma Mia called Money, Money, Money. And then I was like, man. And I also think of the Liza Minnelli, like the money makes the world go round. And I was like, what are other songs? Dang, there's a lot of money. I was like, we should just start going back for it. You name a song, I'll name a song. But I don't think I can name any more than that.
Ugh, I don't know. Every rap song ever, I win.
Yeah, true. Okay.
What else should we talk about?
I love this topic. We're kind of doing a theme, even though the titles of the episodes maybe don't really show that of the last two, but we kind of briefed it in the first one where we talked about health. Of the last two episodes are talking about how to set up yourself for success for the future when it comes to health and wellness. The second episode was how to have a long-lasting relationship, aka having success and long-lasting longevity in the relationship. And today we are talking about money.
Which one do you think is your favorite? Is it this one?
I think the health and wellness stuff is so I don't want to say obvious, but I think we kind of like went on a tangent in that one because we're so passionate about that kind of stuff. But I think that isn't as exciting for me to talk about. I think because I also have that gripe of like, I know a lot of people are not going to fully see the benefit of this, to where relationships, I think, is so on the nose for what is going on in society, I guess, more as of recent. And I think it's something that I'm the most proud of, I guess, in my life, is our relationship. So I like to find moments where it's like, okay, this is like kind of like break it down even for myself of why is what we're working. I'm feeling a slam coming on.
You should not have told me. I'm so self-conscious of breathing out of my nose now. Oh, God.
I also don't know why I'm hiding.
Which I also do this. I also try to keep it like away. I try to keep it away when I'm not talking because I don't want breathing. So now I'm just like, okay, you're talking. Let's get this out of here.
That's what I told Carly too. It was like, there was an episode that I was editing that I had to keep putting my mic volume down because you could hear my breathing so much that episode, and like my breathing pattern was so jacked up, it was freaking me out. Like it wasn't a consistent like Darth Vader, okay, you're breathing loud and it's like annoying. It was like, I was like, maybe I was getting nervous and you could hear my thing. But I'm laughing. Yeah. I've never done this. I don't know why. Like you can't see my mouth when I'm laughing. Well,
we're gone.
So off. But I think this episode on the money part of it, I think I'm the most happy to talk about because it affects literally everybody. Like, yes, maybe being in a successful relationship you don't give a shit about. Maybe having health you don't give a shit about. But like, money is hard to avoid, and having good financial structure is so important. And I don't think it's baseline knowledge that I think I've gotten so much comfort and happiness with having information about money and understanding it and freedom in it that this is definitely one of those avenues where like I want to just like help people because it affects, like it has to affect everybody, whether it's, you know, small scale or large scale.
What do you think, like, Do you remember when you started to create somewhat of an idea about money? Or like, yeah, just like when that started to come into your life as a person, and then what did you start to think about it or plan or create surrounding it? Like, kind of like, what were your influences with it? Why do you like manage or do money the way that you do money, do you think?
Only time you've ever been interested in me is this moment right now, asking me a question. So my first understanding.
I love how we just have the relationship one. You're like, you're just awesome. We just have such good relationship. And then you're like, this is the only time you've ever been interested in me ever.
Well, maybe you showing interest in me isn't that big of a deal. It's like you pick it up through context clues. You don't like really ask me questions, and that's fine. You still understand me. We're both observers. We're not really. No, I'm joking. You asked me questions, but that was just more like interview style question.
Okay, great answer. Now about me.
This is my observation of when these came to. Okay. I would say probably in first grade. That is when my parents got divorced, and that was really when money started to become a like common conversation in the household, and it was always very fear-based and with and this is not from like coming as a slam in any way. This is just like what was surrounding me, and I as a kid I very much attached, and I still do, like the negatives or like where things are going wrong, and I will really ruminate on that because I don't know if it's like the fixer in me or because I just am trying to see where shit is hitting the fan. So it's
just what clicked, what you observed, and what stuck with you, whether it's like real or true or not.
So yeah, so it was, I would say, yeah, whatever age you are, 7 when you're in first grade, but it was like a lot of like harsh hitting, this is what life is, this is what we're struggling with. It wasn't like, oh, I kind of like heard, glimpses here and there, or I kind of just heard through conversations that they were having with other adults. It was very much like more direct of like, this is what it is, these are the problems, this is what's going on. And from the jump, very much so of okay, money has a very, very big impact negatively and positively on your life, and you can really fuck it up. It's harder. How I perceived it then was like, this is hard to obtain, this is hard to manage, this is hard to keep. Like it's
complicated.
It's complicated, and very much a black and white system of you're either a part of this or you're rich. It's like you either have no money or you have all of the money. There wasn't this like medium, you can be comfortable, because in my head growing up, like if people say, oh, we're comfortable, that means you're rich.
Yeah.
That it was fear-based, and it was something that I really didn't want to repeat. I didn't sink into the fear and just like, oh, this is just what it's going to be. It was, I hate this so much, I am going to do the opposite. Now, with saying that, my parents always did a very good job of providing for us. Like, I danced. That's not like that was a cheap activity to do. Like, it's not like it was probably as bad as what they were making it feel like, or how I was interpreting it. And also being an adult and just learning more things about it. It's like, oh, there was more of like a managing problem, I think, than anything. And that's just like the lack of knowledge. And that's why I like having these conversations, because that's not something that people talk about, especially when they're growing up. Like, money and finances is not something you openly talk about. That it was just a lack of comfortability, I think, with it. But also at a younger age, knowing that I wanted to go into the dance world, that was always just drilled into me of like, you're going to be in this world, you're not going to make a lot of money. You're going to be in this world, you're not going to have a retirement. You're going to be in this world, you're not going to have health insurance. Like, it was so much of like, just plan to be broke.
Well, and it's like, that's great that you want to do that, but you have to know what comes with that.
Yeah.
It's like,
so
that's cool. You want to be a dancer, but also like, if you want to be a
you're
dancer,
not going to have this life then.
you're going to have to think about all these other things that don't come with that type of job.
Which I think benefited me in my stubbornness of, okay, well, I still want to have that. And I still have this inkling of like, I want to have money. Like, I want to have this type of lifestyle. I want to feel comfortable. I don't want to have the fear around it. Like, I wanted to change my relationship with it. And I think through me, where I get comfortable with things is by understanding it a little bit more, whether that's like through a control aspect of it. I feel like I have more control over it if I understand it. That it was a lot of just kind of what we're going to talk about, I think, in this episode of learning the ways of it and then learning how to set myself up as going forward, because I knew getting into it right from the jump, like, you're not going to have a retirement. You need to set yourself up for the next thing. And that almost kind of like triggered a pattern in me of, okay, well, we're 18 and we're going to move to LA. I don't want to get there and scramble. I want to have a buttload of savings that I can feel comfortable with so that I can make appropriate choices, that it's not based on the fear of the lack of the money, but through opportunities and what I want to do, because I've already set myself up in the past to then be able to experience the now better. But that's been like a slow learning curve, I think.
Well, do you know what like started to have you change your mind about, maybe not even change your mind, but like, I don't know, a realization that you had control over it and could create what you wanted to? Because it's like your first, which was the same for me, your first like introduction to it is like, hey, this is, money's hard, you should be scared of it, kind of thing. That, do you know when or why it started to turn into something that was more optimistic and more like, oh, I want to make more money, and I want to, I don't know, kind of turn more into a positive and a driving force rather than this fear-based thing, which it might still be fear-based a little bit, but like, do you remember anything of that, of like where it started to turn or change?
Yeah, two things that pop out. One was when I was in high school, and it's almost like I was starting to see opportunities or jobs that I was getting that it's like, okay, I've been working with this person, you know, for a few years doing random projects that I wasn't getting paid for and just like doing it for the experience. And now that I'm coming onto this job, like, they're paying me and I'm 16 and I'm doing a silly little gig and I'm getting paid $500 for 4 hours. It's like, oh, okay. So it's not like there's no money in this industry. You just have to learn this way of living. You have to learn like how to build these opportunities. You have to learn to like stick it out maybe through the sucky parts to get these bigger and better opportunities. But then also from that, like any job that I did when I was in school or in high school, it was like, just save it all. Like, I have no reason to spend this. I don't really go out with friends and like spending and do that kind of stuff. So like, I and my parents were nice enough to, like, I didn't have to pay for my car. I didn't have to pay for gas or, you know, that kind of stuff. So just getting that mindset of like, this is going to be for something later. And in high school, I knew I was going to move to California basically right after. So I was like, everything that I'm doing now is in prep, whether it's saving money, doing jobs, creating opportunities, like this is all in prep for that. So that saving thing just kind of stayed with the money thing. And then teaching dance before moving, that was my first job, like consistent job ever. And
after high school.
Yeah. And making money from that, seeing just consistent money coming in and seeing like my savings account just grow and grow. And I'm like, I have never seen this much money before. I don't think my parents have ever had this much money at one time. And be like, okay, don't mess this up. Like, save this money. You are going to use all, like, when you move to California, like, what do you want your life to be? You hear story after story of broke dancer goes to LA, stays broke, has to do a crappy job or going to audition, not making any money. And it's a struggle. Rooming with 6 people.
Yep.
Like that
Moves
was
back.
not going to be for me. I needed it to be very cushioned and comfortable. Otherwise, I was not going to thrive. I wasn't going to like it.
You're going to be stressed about it the entire time.
Yeah, I wanted to take jobs because I wanted to take them. I didn't want to have to do something that I didn't want to have to do. And through teaching, I was like, I'm going to save up enough money that I can live in LA for at least a year. And if I never work once, I'm still going to be fine. Then with that mindset of, okay, I have control over this money. I want to continue to make more and not have to touch that savings. That would be even better of an ideal situation if I move there and that just sits. I don't have to touch it. Then it's like, okay, so now get a teaching job. Keep building that money, thinking of that, like, I like having that be 0, whatever that number is. Like, I like having that be 0, and as long as I can keep it. Then again, just like, okay, I have the control over how I manage this. I have the control over, I'm doing jobs that I want to do. So that's building that more of that income coming from things that I'm going to put more effort into, so that I'm building that power back of, I control this whole thing. I'm doing things that I want to do. I'm doing good at them, doing better at them because I have interest in them. And then my rates are going up, or I'm getting increased in pay, and all these other opportunities are coming in and more money's coming in, but still keeping that same thought process of that money in there is still 0. So if you want to do anything extra, you want to fly back home, you want to up your rent and move somewhere else or whatever, like, you have to manage your monthly income without thinking of that money sitting in there.
So yours is mostly like you had your own experiences of, oh, I'm making money and, you know, I don't have to, I'm just going to save it. I don't have to spend anything on it. And you could see, oh, if I just continue to do this, I'm going to make money. And then you had your own proof of, I can save money and I have saved money. So I know I can do this. And like, it could just be like this. It doesn't have to be maybe what I grew up in, where it was like, you know, money is, I'm afraid of it. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what's smart, what's not. Like, you just had experiences and then was going off of those.
Well, yeah, and it's knowing myself of, I'm not like a scrambler. I'm not good at being on the bottom. I'm not an underdog. I don't handle pressure. I don't like being scared. I don't like being at the bottom and fighting my way to the top. Like, I like being at the top and just getting, like, staying there or a little bit better, staying there a little bit better. If I would have went there and like had to
grind,
make things work and grind, like, I want to grind when I don't have to. That's when I, like, I'll still put in the same amount of effort as that person, but it's that mindset of like, but I don't have to be scared. That's where I do well. I don't do well with the pressure.
Did you have other people that you saw that you also saw, like, could see that was going to work, or that could work? Or was it mostly just you had your own experiences of doing it and you proved to yourself? Because I think that's what's interesting about, like, the difference between you and I with this.
I think the main person that sticks out is my first boss at the dance studio in Madison. She was the first person that I saw being a studio owner of a dance. Like, I always grew up learning, like, if you own a dance studio, like, you don't make a lot of money, you do it for the love of it. You do it for the love of the game. Like, yeah. You're not doing it to make money. That she was someone that lived so, in my head, like, luxurious. Like, she bought expensive things. She took advantage of experiences. Like, she was going on really cool trips and vacations and, like, living life through interests and happiness, and, like, doing that. And a lot of money was required to do a lot of the things that she was doing. And it's like the way that she was managing the studio was also so different than what I have seen. Like, she wasn't doing it all herself. She had departments of people. Like, she wasn't having the load of the whole studio on her, needing to manage the stress of everything. Like, she was great at delegating things out, and through that, like, the success of the company was higher than what I had seen in the past. And through that, I'm sure they were bringing in more money because of that. They were getting more students. They were able to like build a brand new building and then work in there, and like more students were able to come, which obviously probably means more income. That I think it boils down to, I saw an industry that I was so familiar with and had seen over and over again being done so differently. And then someone that was in that same position that I've seen 100 times, and she wasn't stressed out all the time. She wasn't complaining about her job. She was talking about it in like an inspirational way all the time, and like living her own life and having experiences and spending money and like thriving in ways that I was like, that's really cool. I've never seen this type of job done this way. So I'm not, and just like my stubbornness, I'll go against whatever you say, and I'll go against the grain. So you tell me that I'm going to be a broke dancer. No, I'm going to find any way to not be that. And I will, just my stubbornness will help me in those specific instances. But I saw her doing something that I've seen over and over again, being done differently. How can I do this differently then?
Yeah. That's where, like, I think our trajectories are a little bit different, or maybe not even trajectory, but the why we can see an optimistic view with money and like being in control of it and that sort of thing. Because I had the same thing. Like, my first introduction with money was not great. Like, it was the same kind of thing as you. Like, your first feelings about it, or even knowledge about it, is like, oh, I should be scared. Like, this should be like, things aren't great, so we need to be really aware of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the obsession over managing it has come for me, is like, if it's not going to be great, I need to know how to make sure like everything works out. So I need to know where every dollar's going, where every dollar's coming in,
Mm-hmm.
projecting for the future of 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, like just being obsessed with when's, is this money going to continue to come in? For how long?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just every part of it. And I think weirdly for me, maybe not weirdly, but like, mine had nothing to do with experiences, like of like proving to myself that I could make money or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It was all stories from the people that, like, I wanted to be in the NFL. So everybody that I saw,
you're like, it's going to be fine. I'm going to be rich.
And it's all stories of people who came from not a lot of money and in bad areas,
Mm-hmm.
or like they weren't rich and then got to that point. It's a lot of people that just were poor, didn't have money, and then they were able to work hard enough and succeed and get to this point where they're now making a bunch of money. So it was like, that's what I think is interesting, because you have all these experiences of making money and saving and proving to yourself. And then to me, it was like, well, there's all these stories and this is a direction I want to go anyways. And so if they could do it, why couldn't I do it? Which I think that kind of mindset and being exposed to that so quickly, and I think in a world where that is so prevalent, of people that were just like, yeah, why can't I do it? Like, I'm going to try to. That has helped me so much with all of that stuff. It's just like, I don't know, like, most people can't do it. Well, why can't I? Like, some people still are, and there's stories of people that are doing it. So why can't I do it? Do I just have to work harder, or like study more, research more? Or what does it have to be? Like, I'll figure it out and do it. So I think that's interesting, of you having the experiences of like proving it to yourself. And then I'm just like, other people said they did it, so I guess I could do it. And then believing that, I'm just like, yeah, I think I could do it. And I still have that just naive stupidness of like, yeah, I could probably do anything. Like, if I just set my mind to it and worked at it, like, I'll do it. But do I want to? No. But like, I could probably do anything. I could be an accountant if I wanted. Just got to work at it and do it. Like, I just don't have that that governor on my thought process of like, oh, I could never do that. It's like, no, I could probably do that. I'll figure out a way. I'll get used to it. I'll get used to seeing, I'll become a police officer and see a bunch of death, and I'll just get used to it. It's fine. It's like, you sure? Yeah, sure. Why not? I don't know why. I don't know why. And maybe it's because I was exposed to so many, like, sports was so immediate in my life. And that's like every single story that you hear is this guy came from nothing and became something. And then they interview him and he's like, yeah, I just never stopped believing that I could do it. I just saw everybody else did it. And I went, well, why can't I? It's like, that is every story.
Yeah, I think we both have that, whether that's I think it's been a positive. I think it served us very well, but I think we both have that in common where, and it relates to the finance of like, why would I not be rich? There's no reason that I can perceive. Like, I would be that person. Like, it's like that stupid.
It's naiveness.
It's naive. It's maybe both. It's like ignorant. Very egotistical. It's arrogant as hell. But it's that I feel this. So if I feel this, so what I said in the relationship episode. It's like, even though it's been crazy or bad or whatever, I still have this inkling that like I need to make this work. There's something with this that like I cannot let go of. And that was the same thing, I think, with the money and the career and all that. It's like, it makes no sense on paper, but I can't settle. And with that, it's like, there's something about, that's, I guess, another thing, and not to like add more to why we're talking about this for me, but like discipline. Like, I have crazy discipline when it comes to certain things, like what I want. That with this, I think we both have that, where it's like, I don't know how we're getting there. I don't know how it's going to come about, but like, this is the life that we want.
There's so many placebo studies that belief is such an important factor. Like, it is somewhat the deciding factor. Like, we were just listening.
It's not even placebo. They're like testing it now, like through.
Well, that's what I mean.
Guy.
Is like,
I can never remember his name.
We were just listening to a podcast, and they were talking about people going through sobriety or trying to get sober, and it's something like there's a 40%. There's more of a 40% chance of becoming successfully sober and staying on that course if you believe in a God. And this person was like, I didn't have any proof. I didn't have evidence. I wasn't really a strong believer, but I was so obsessed with becoming sober that I was like, I'll just start believing and we'll see. And is sober, has been sober. Mm-hmm. And there's so many studies like that, down to like blood sugar studies, where they will tell people, they'll give somebody something and say, this raises your blood sugar, and if you eat this, and they will eat it and they will raise their blood sugar, when that item historically doesn't do that. And then they'll do the same thing in reverse. Well, like, they'll give somebody a donut or something that would obviously raise somebody's blood sugar and say, this is made from different material, like different stuff. This won't raise your blood sugar. And the person will eat it, and their blood sugar will raise, but it's not at the levels that they typically see if they gave that same donut to somebody else. And it's simply based on the belief.
Yeah.
So it's like this conversation of, well, why couldn't I make a bunch of money? Why can't I be the person that manages money really well? Why can't I be the person that like maybe came from something, a situation where I didn't have a lot of money, and I can be the person that creates a ton of wealth or whatever. I think so much of that, it's the health stuff, it's the relationship stuff. So much of it is just based on belief, that even if you don't believe it, I can't get healthy. Like, I just can't. I've tried everything or whatever. Well, just fake it till you make it. I can't have a good relationship. I've dated 400 women. I've dated 300 men. Like, I've done both sides and it's not working. It's like, well, you have to believe that it's going to work and that you're going to find somebody. And there's just so many legitimate studies that like this proves that belief is such an important factor in every single one of these categories. And it's the same with this. It's like, why can't you be a millionaire? The second highest profession of millionaires is teachers.
Mm-hmm.
They're always bitching about how little money they make. And yet they are second on the list of millionaires, according to...
And that's where that's where it comes back to the discipline. That's where it comes back to the behavior of defying the odds, I guess, in a way. And that is something I didn't even think about, but almost like scratch everything that I said and put it down to this one thing. And this is going to sound so silly.
We'll just cut the first 20 minutes.
But I think a huge part of why I live my life and the way that I continue to live my life is what we used to call it when I was little of I'm in Courtney world. I like the way that I daydream and the way that I think about things is so like inspiring and down to the details, and so like if I'm envisioning my future of, okay, what do I want my life to look like, what I want my house to be, what I want my kids to be talking about and to be experiencing, what do I want our dynamic to be, what clothes do I want to be wearing, what do I want my day to look like, I will like envision these stories and daydream these stories to such a vivid degree where it has to make sense also that I relate so much to that feeling of, man, that would be so awesome. I want my kids to be talking about how much they love this and how much they love doing this every day. Okay, how do I build a life at 26 for those kids 10 years from now, or when I was 20, to, okay, what steps do I need to start making right now so I get that? What I want to be in this house. Okay, what steps do I need to do right now? Because that feeling is so awesome. I don't want to not experience it. What do I need to do right now, day to day, to start building to that? And it just comes back to like the feeling of the daydream felt so enriching and so awesome that I now can't not have that. And I now can't not experience that in real time, in real life, that I will start implementing the things and the behaviors and creating the discipline around those actions that will eventually get me there. And again, what we've talked about this whole thing of like looking forward and what progress you need to make now to build to that. But it all stems from that, like maybe going back to that relationship with money or your relationship with yourself and your life of I want it to feel this way and be this way, of not from the fear, not from the lack. Like, who would daydream about shitty things? Like, I'm only daydreaming about my awesome life. Now build it.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was just going to say is I think a lot of people do. They daydream about not great scenarios, not good situations. And then they're constantly thinking about how they would have to get out of that situation or like survive that situation. Or I think it's either that or it's they're thinking about the past too much, and their past is constantly dictating what's going on, what's coming in the future, or what's coming right now. Because like with that, you daydreaming about positive things and optimistic things and what I want to create for a future, and it's not like I want to create a household where we're not fearful about money and we're not doing this and not doing that. It's like, no, I want them to feel positively about this, and this is the kind of conversations I want them to have about it, and I want it to be a good environment. It's like you're not trying to avoid the shit. You're trying to shoot for stuff that's positive and good and fun, to where I think a lot of people that I don't know, like, because I'm the same way. I'm a dreamer, and I think about those situations. I mean, we were just talking about it on the walk too, of like, wouldn't this be cool and wouldn't that be cool? And it's like, okay, you're getting a little ahead of yourself, slow down. But I just like thinking about that stuff and that could possibly be life and doing that. And then you come to the present moment, and like you were saying, you start taking steps and taking action to make that stuff happen. To where I think people a lot of the time will daydream about stuff, but it's about negative things. And now you're just trying to create a life that avoids those negative things. So you're creating a life of avoidance all the time rather than something of progression and reaching for stuff. And then there's another category of people that are just stuck in the past, and all they do is think about the past, and that isn't allowing them to move forward either. So I kind of like you saying, I don't know why people would do that. That's just, whether it was young experiences or whatever happened, you just got lucky enough that's the way you daydream, is to think about how good life could be and how to achieve that. And it was the same for me, to where I think some people just, I don't know, whatever experiences they had and whatever ways they took it, because we both had negative experiences with money to start with, but we've been able to switch and change it into optimistic view and how do we reach that stuff. There's a ton of people that don't do that. They just stay in that, negative, bad, dark hole of be fearful money could take everything away from you, and it's bad, and they stay in the bad because they only think of it in that avenue.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think at a younger age, I saw people with money and I saw people without money. I saw people saying they had money, but they didn't actually have money. And like it just being a lot of, like, even though people were experiencing a lot of different things, it affected everyone's life. And it's like what I said at the beginning of the podcast. Like, no matter
whether you like it or not,
your reality with it, like, it affects everybody. So even at a younger age, I'm like, there's no way to avoid this. So you're either figuring it out, or you're drowning. Yeah. And I am not one to choose to drown. So I wanted to see money as it's going to work for me. I'm going to work with it. We are going to build together, not it's just this nag in life and stress. And that's another thing that you hear, or I heard as a younger person, was like, that's a huge stress for people.
Yeah.
Like in marriages too, like financials is one of those things. So it's like, man, this must like be pretty important, because like it affects kind of everything. It affects where you live. It affects what you drive. It affects what food you can eat. It affects where you can go. Like, people that are in dangerous situations tend to have less money. People that are also, but maybe that people that only focus on money, maybe they don't have great relationships with their family members or the kids, or they don't have a good reality on life. Like, it's not more just means better, but you also have to have the whole relationship be good with it.
Well, and you touched on too, daydreaming of a future situation and then trying to put things into place right now to reach that. I think that's another thing that's not touched on hardly at all. Like it's very much about how can I get some sort of positivity or relief like right now. So there's a lot of spending for right now. Mm-hmm. Rather than a preparation for the future and setting yourself up for, just more relief, more positivity, more success down the line. There's not this, which this is the whole theme of these 3 episodes, is what are lifelong strategies? Like, do you think spending $100, $200 a month on clothes is a lifelong strategy? Sure, if your income keeps up with that, but like, what are you doing to prepare for larger purchases in the future of a home, or what other things are you daydreaming about that you want? You want the life where it's a home and you have a little boat for on the lake, and you have this and new cars and blah blah blah, but you're spending $200 a month on clothes. Like, that's so much money that could be put towards other things that you would want, but you want this instant gratification type thing. And it's the same principle with health, relationships, and money. Instant gratification versus delayed. Something you hear about frickin' 24/7 nowadays. And yet we don't see the actionable things of doing either of those. It's just talking about, try to avoid instant gratification. Everybody's like, okay, I'll do that. And then they don't change their life at all. Because what are those things? It's like, well, are you spending a bunch of money right now on just stuff for right now? Are you spending, are you doing things with your relationship that are maybe a relief right now, but they're not a future long-term successful, action? And it's the same with health. Okay, you can have those donuts and you can sit on your butt for whatever 7 days and not do anything, but what does that look like in the future down the line? That's instant gratification stuff just doesn't add up to anything of value.
And that's where weirdly I think I kind of, and now let's get into the functions of how we actually do this. Like, I think I kind of fell into how to be good with money in like an accidental way of I wasn't searching out the information. I wasn't taught this information, but it was, okay, you're going to be a broke dancer that's going to have no retirement. So you can't spend money frivolously on stupid things because you don't know when your next job is going to be. So you don't know when money is going to be coming in like a regular job. You don't know that you're going to have a consistent paycheck. So you can't spend money on stupid clothes that you don't need. You can't spend money on going out to eat. You can't spend money on home decor because you don't know when more money is going to be coming in. So that has created the behavior of I'm actually really dialing in what do I need and what do I not need. What's worth spending money on and what's not worth spending money on. I saw a lot of people that, at least I see like a poor person behavior versus a rich person behavior. A lot of poor person actions is spending a lot of money on things that they don't need, and it's a right now enjoyment. This is going to be a one and done. That's a going out to eat. That is getting clothes that you're going to then eventually get rid of or whatever. People that have money and the way that they spend money is through maybe experiences, through investments, through home, like things that are going to then again build them money, and they're to like build them money. That I was like, okay, so that's a poor person action. I'm going to try to avoid those as much as possible. We do have our things. Like we do like going out to eat. That's probably the only thing that we like to do. And even that we do it so rarely, but like
we don't really have things.
That's we have narrowed down our life to such the essentials. Really, if we're going to be honest, like it's going out to eat every once in a while.
But what does that even mean? I mean, like every once in a while is different for every person. Like
once a month.
And when we go out to eat, it's like, let's go grab frozen pizzas from Walmart. Like it's not going out to eat.
Yeah, doing that, like
well, we don't do it.
I guess I'm being more, I should be more specific. Like I'm being strict of like, we'll get our basic groceries, but to me, like we like drinking alcohol, but that's not an essential grocery list item. That's a choice to buy alcohol. We'll buy alcohol. Sometimes we'll get ice cream. That's not essential. That's a want. That's a extra fluff thing. But like besides that, we live in cool places. That would be another thing. Like we don't need to live where we live. We could live somewhere way cheaper and way whatever. We've always kind of decided on that. Well, like we don't need to be moving where we're moving.
Well,
we could be living.
You hear the prices that are back home for apartments?
Yeah. We could also buy a house back home.
Well, not right away. Renting.
But I think I saw those things like you're not going to know when the next check is coming in, so you can't be spending money frivolously. I also heard you're not going to have a retirement, so through that, I set up retirement and investments account very young, or not very young, but
yeah,
basically right at a
relatively young. Yeah,
because I was like, I'm not going to have this, so I better set this up now. Accidentally started investing and understanding what that means and setting that up.
The way you said that, accidentally started investing. Oh shit! Oops! I just invested in an account. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Oops. Whoa! How did I get on this website? Oh no! I'm investing in my future. Oh no! What an accident!
But it's not like I was told this, or it's not
I
like
actually started getting healthy. Oh, what am I doing? Eating chicken. Oh no! What are these curls? Oh, why am I doing this? What an accident!
Maybe accident isn't the correct word, but like it was not as dialed in maybe as I could say that it was. Like it was more, I'm hearing all these negatives of what my career is going to be, so like I better do these things. Now, why I say it was an accident is because like everybody in every career, in my opinion, should be doing these things that I'm talking about. Like you should be spending way less than what you earn. You should be understanding to me, like I think what we hear all the time is you have a checkings and a savings. That's it. It's like, to me, that the baseline of knowledge of you have a checking and a savings should also be you have a checkings, you have a savings, and you invest. Investing should be a part of your baseline knowledge. Like we should be teaching that to our kids. Like
Yeah, totally.
when they get money for Christmas or whatever, it's not just save it in your piggy bank or save it for something else. Like investing should be a part of that conversation. I don't care if they're 4 years old. Like it should be a part of what we just know about the world of money. And like I said, I accidentally fell into it through that. But
Oh no! Oh, I'm writing a check. Oh no!
and then same thing, like not knowing what my whole trajectory of my career is going to be, because in my industry, like you can't. That it was like, okay, well, you better prepare for the future when you have it now, and in a lucky situation, you just keep always having it. So then you're just continuing to prepare for the future. And again, that's what I think everybody should be doing. Like you're not just living for the now, you're living for the now, but with 50% of that going towards the future.
Yeah, I think most people can just see it like across the board. Name a topic, name a subject, name a category, 3 of the same word for you, but it's so much just about how do I feel good in this second right now. Everybody's so hyper focused on right now that there's just such a lack of planning for anything in the future. I mean, it's like, I don't know, people used to try to, like, I don't think this would be something to look up because I'm not positive about, but it seems like it was so much more regular that parents would pay for kids' college, or with the marriage thing, like the wife's family, whatever, would pay for this and the husbands would pay for the other thing, to where it's like that sort of stuff is just so lost now. And I don't think it's, well, school's more expensive and weddings are more expensive and this and that. I think it's so much to do with just a lack of planning, a lack of preparations. It's I want new clothes, I want a new car, I want the new iPhone, I want a new TV. It's just we're consumers now. Like that's what so much of this data is now, is just consumer data. What are you buying? Are people buying it? Are they buying it every year? How can we get them to buy it more? It's like we're just defined as consumers now, that we weren't defined as that before. Like we were, one of the books I'm reading is about like the history of the United States and its relationship with money, and what we used to be savers. That's what we were known as in the US, is like really good savers and preparing for the future and setting our kids up for success later on, because we did such a good job doing that. And that is just so lost now. It's just about how can I feel good in this moment. And then we do it to our kids too, where it's like we're teaching them and showing them like, oh, you feel bad right now? Let's go do something to make you feel better. Like, let me get you a new toy. Let's watch a TV show that you really like. Or, oh, you had a bad day at school. Let's go get, McDonald's for a treat so that you can feel better. And let me get you new clothes. Like there's just endless examples of doing this, to where there's not the teaching and the preaching of delayed gratification, and you work for something and you earn something later on. It's just, oh, if you want to watch TV, you have to do this thing right now. You have to do the dishes or whatever. And they do the dishes and they get that gratification right away. It's like, that's just teaching them, just like it taught adults to, I need to be rewarded for every little fucking thing I do. And that's just not a value. Like, I think that's why we're all unhappy all the time. It's a part of the reason is just like, we have to be constantly gratified all the time. And if we have 1 second of it's not the best moment of my life, we're like, oh, everything sucks, we're the worst. Like somebody needs to change something, or I need to find a donut to eat, or a TV show that I really like, or It's like, that's not where the value is. The value is being able to pay for your kids' college, being able to set your kids up for the future, creating a successful and like wealthy, rewarding future for yourself, so that you don't have to worry about working into your 60s and 70s and 80s. Like, but we just don't do that now. It's how can I spend and live the most like thrilling. It's the keeping up with the Joneses thing. How can I be at the level that everybody else is right now and feel really good about it? It's like you don't get true gratification from that. You don't get true value from that. Things you get value from are the things that you worked hard for a long time, and now it pays off 20 years later, 30 years later. And it bleeds into everything, but with the topic being money today, it's like you were saying, what typically do poor people do? What typically do wealthy people do? It's like wealthy people don't go buy a brand new vehicle every year unless they're extremely, extremely wealthy. It's like poor people do that because they want to show that they're wealthy. Like wealthy people take that money and they invest and they buy more real estate, or they invest in the stock market. Like they take that money to make them more money. They don't take that money and put it into a depreciating asset that's just going to lose value. And that's what we continuously do. And that's why everybody is, I think, fearful of money or freaked out about money or doesn't understand money. Is like, if you think of every purchase you make as, am I putting into something that is appreciating in value? It's going up over time or going down over time. And you analyze every purchase like that, I think you'd realize how much bullshit you buy that is depreciating in value. And that's why you can't get any headway on anything. It's like clothes depreciate in value. Cars do. TVs do. New night tables, lamps. Like every single bullshit item does that. Shitty food. Not only is it depreciating your health, but like also it's more expensive than healthy food a lot of the time. So if you're buying healthy food, that's appreciating in value. You're spending less and you're getting healthier to be able to then make better decisions. Like, I don't know. I think that's the end of my rant.
I know we're both ranting a lot today, but it was a great rant. That is one thing. I think I told you about this a couple weeks ago. Megan, who is a person that we know through this industry, she had a post about how, and it's the same thing, and I'm going to again go on a tangent of my own. She had this, so she works at a salon, and she also is a studio owner, a dance studio owner, and she was doing training at the school that she took school from, and one of her old dance studio students was in the class. It was kind of like, okay, you always put in 100% effort for us at the studio, and you were doing this separate career, like how did you do it all? And she said her answer was to her like, it's because I wanted to. Like there were years where I was going to the salon, getting the schooling, and then running over to teach dance. And then I'm working a job at night as a bartender and then doing the whole thing again. It's like, wasn't sleeping, probably wasn't taking care of herself as much, but like the goal and the whole agenda was to get to this thing that she's at now. It's like, yeah, you could take a lot of those years and go, is this worth it? This sucks. Like every day is hard. Every day is working towards something that I don't have right now. But when you're there, it's like, okay, yeah, now I've gained all of those behaviors. I've gained the discipline. I understand what it took to get here. So I have the appreciation. I've like all the tools from that. It just takes a little bit of that. You're not living to the fullest in every single moment, I suppose. But I think that's where for me.
But now she is.
But now she's able to,
and that like is probably as good, if not better, than she could have imagined.
Yeah, and that's where I see the money thing and putting in the time to relationships, putting time into the health. This is what happens when I don't talk for a long time. My mouth freezes. Is you're putting in the hard time.
Just a quick slam for me to stop going on
no,
rants.
not that at all. Not that.
This is what happens when I don't get a chance to talk on the podcast.
It was more of a slam on me that I need to talk all the time. Is you're putting in those moments for the future, and they seem sucky right then, but you're building opportunities for your future self. And that's a fortune cookie that I read so many years ago that I stand by of like, you are your best investment. So there are things that I may spend money on, but a lot of the times it's checking the box of I'm investing in myself. Living where we are at has, and whether people want to believe me or not, has helped me flourish so much in my career and who I am, because it's forcing me to adapt. It's forcing me to make different connections. It's allowing me to be in these amazing places, which in a creative space is allowing me to thrive a little bit more. It's allowing me to have fun, and we're moving to different places, so I'm being around new people. I'm learning a lot. That to me is investing back into myself. The way that we eat, the way that we prioritize our health. It's like, yeah, we're probably spending a lot on from the jump when we were making no money, living in California, probably needed to be way more strict on this. Like, we would not spend money anywhere, but yet our grocery bill was like through the roof, because we're like, this is something we prioritize. We have always prioritized that. It's like, but I'm investing that into myself. That is my health. That my health is also what's running my whole career. Like, I have to manage that. So it's like, yeah, that is an investment into myself. But because I'm doing that, I'm not getting clothes all the time. We're not going on vacations. We're not getting material things, because we're choosing where we're delegating that money. But
yeah, our vacations are going back home where we have free room and board and don't have to pay for food.
That it is. I think that's why I also like the conversation of the. You take it over.
Well, I was just gonna say, again, you kind of said something about it, but that's what all of these. The health, the relationships, the money thing, it's you're sacrificing stuff now so that the future is better, but the most important part probably that comes with that is you making those sacrifices to achieve the thing that you want to. The amount of shit that you learn along the way and the amount of tools you get to put in your tool belt, like you said, of now you can work that hard and you can do that. You have trust in yourself to, whether it's with the money of saving and putting it in the right places and stopping the bullshit spending, or it's with relationships of like, I'm not going to blow up, even though I usually blow up in these situations. I'm going to like sacrifice my immediate emotion now so that the future of our relationship can be better. Then you learn along the way, hey, this is a way better tool because it not only applies to you, but everybody else that I encounter. And I'm just better at regulating my emotions in general. And then health, the thing.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to work out?
I mean,
almost no one besides you.
I do, but yeah, most people do not. They hate it. They don't like it. But you do it for long enough, you start to find things that you like about it. And you also just gain this trust in yourself and this belief in yourself, and like there's positive things that come from it. Like, sure, you maybe get to the point where you have the body or you have the, I don't know, the performance that you want, but it's like you just consistently went to the gym. You did something that you didn't want to do all consistently, and you did it enough to where now you maybe even like it a little bit, or it's not as difficult as it used to be. And so I think there's the idea of like you sacrifice now for the later, but there's all this stuff in between that you learn and you grow from, and you acquire tools and stuff that I think gets forgotten. That's like, it's not just so that you have a better future later on. This is like a process that you're going to learn way more because you're choosing to do this. If you chose not to do this and spend whenever you want or whatever, not only do you not get the payoff at the end, but you don't get any of the stuff that you learn along the way.
So can we kind of go over like the functions, and this is not a live by our words, change your whole life because of it. We're just culminating the information that we have learned over the years maybe into some sort of functions. This could be
just jump in. Do exactly what we say. It's only $100,000 to do our program. It's 3 easy payments.
But kind of going through the functions of like, what are the behaviors that we're talking about? It's like, okay, we're saying, build towards the future. It's like, how does someone do that? How do you start doing that? What are the day-to-day mechanisms? What are the monthly mechanisms? Because I think there's also going to be a lot of people that are like, okay, sure, but I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I can barely afford what I'm paying now.
Well, I think you got to know.
You're telling me to do this?
You got to know kind of what you want for the future. Like, do you want to buy a house eventually? Do you want to retire at a certain age? Do you want to, I don't know, save up enough money to buy a brand new car? Like, you got to kind of know what you want so that you can have a plan in place to do that. And generally the plan usually, or the plan or the protocol is generally the same. It's, you got to figure out a way to save money. And I think one of the functions of doing that is you got to know how much you make and how much you spend. And that's typically broken down monthly. That would probably be the best way, so you can understand each month, am I spending too much or am I saving enough? And then you can start to get a realistic idea of maybe how long this would take to do this, or can I do another job and make more money, or is there opportunities within the job that I'm doing now to make more money? Where can I cut spending? I think the spending thing, like, we're both very frugal, and I think because of how money was introduced to us right away, like we talked about, I think that also made us very frugal, like, immediately. It was like, okay, we're gonna not spend any extra bullshit money that we can. I mean, like,
our fear of money has helped us.
Yeah, and there's still too much of a fear, but like, oh my God. I mean, the amount of like 45-minute conversations we'll have about buying a $6 pizza is fucking crazy. Like, it's so frustrating to think back about it. Like, and that's really every decision that comes up too, is it's like, do we want to spend the money or not? Because we both would be like, well, we both want it, right? And it's like, yeah, we do. But it's like, do we spend the $5 on it?
That was such a funny conversation that you had with one of the family members. Oh, they're like, what is your dollar amount? Because they were talking about, like, with their spouse, like, what's the dollar amount that you kind of need to, like, discuss with them? Like, if I'm going to spend $100, like, I have to let her know or check in with her.
Yeah,
or we're like,
talk about
any dollar amount.
Like, yeah, any, name it, $1.
$1, like, any
a Snickers bar at the fucking convenience store. Like, we're so frugal. So I think that is where we're different when it comes to that.
Okay, so here's how I would start it. Like you said, just like with the health, calories in, calories out. So, okay.
Well, and that's like, wow, I was building to that and you just cut right to it. That is,
it's like someone that messes up a joke. I stole your punchline.
Yeah, what the hell?
Sorry.
But that's totally what it is. And I think that can help in both of those categories. If you can see money
Jumping back to the fitness thing.
If you can see money as calories in, calories out, it's like, so if you take in more calories than you give away, you're going to have more. So you're going to put on more weight, you're going to get larger, whatever. And then with the money thing, it's just the opposite. Like, the more money that you take in and keep versus the money you spend, the better you're doing. And the more you have to do with that extra money. So same philosophy, same exact thing, like what's coming in versus what's going out. You have to know both of those things if you want to make progress in either of them. If you want to lose weight or you want to gain weight, you got to know how many calories you're taking in versus how much you're expending. Money, if you want to save for something, you want to have extra money to invest or to, I don't know, put extra on your house or in your car, you have to know how much is coming in versus how much is going out. What?
I agree. There's something about the way that you're phrasing it that I'm not. It seems like it's more of a, like, you're just saving for an item or a thing versus like this should be your lifestyle.
Sure. And I don't
think that's what you.
Well, it kind of is. And I guess that's just more so what I'm starting with.
Okay.
I guess is those are just the examples of you got to have a budget. You got to know what you're spending on what. Like, you got to categorize, how much do I spend on groceries? How much do I spend on rent or mortgage? How much do I spend on streaming stuff? Like, every category of everything. You want to know where every dollar's going. And this is like I think something that we got into aggressively at one point was we discovered Dave Ramsey, and he was super helpful in that way of like, know where every single dollar is going, what's coming in, what's going out. Like, don't be like, well, I think I make this much, or I think I spend this much. Like, no, actually do the work to know every month where your money's going, because you'll start to figure out like where you go off track. And all of a sudden, because so many people are like, I just don't know how I can't get ahead. Like, I always have this amount of money in, but I don't feel like I spend this much, or I feel like I make a good amount. The amount of freaking people that call into that show and are like, I make $250,000 a year and I don't know how I'm still like broke. It's like, yeah, how are you? That's fucking crazy. But it's because they don't know where their money's going.
And that's where I'd say same thing when you're doing it with your food stuff, like tracking calories. Don't go, okay, I'm going to start tracking my money and budgeting. I'm going to like cut back on things. Like, take 3 months of just tracking your average spending, so then you can see, what am I doing with no conscience? What am I doing just day to day? Then once you get that tracking down, like he said, breaking it down into categories, that has helped us of being able to see, okay, not just income in, money going out, but what am I spending on all of these categories? If you're in the position where you're either needing to ramp up in certain areas or cutting back to be able to ramp up in certain areas, that will give you more of a direct approach of, okay, I'm spending $300 between like how we break it, like entertainment, going out to eat, clothes, whatever. It's like, you definitely don't need to be doing, or like for us, like supplements. It's like, okay, I'm either saving up for this one-time thing, or I'm wanting to create a little bit more money like on monthly and average to do something else with, or to, if you're not investing, to start investing in savings, or to build up like what we're going to get to, the savings. Then you can go, okay, these 3 categories, let's knock them out. There gives me $300 every single month. When you break it down, you're able to see versus like, I'm losing money, but I don't know where. Or how many people don't know that they're spending how much money like going out to eat.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I only went here that one week and then here the other week. And then it's like, it's over $100. You're like, oh, that's okay. You just imagine adding a couple $100 or $300 or $500 back into your budget every single month. Yeah. That's way easier to see when you break it down. Again, I say go back to just tracking your average, but then start categorizing it as well.
Because
then,
you can see where you're overspending, or you're really losing a lot of money on stuff that like you could cut back on, like going out to eat. That's typically a big one. Or just, miscellaneous whatever. Like, some people just, they spend money on clothes, or they're just like sift through Amazon, like, oh, I'll buy these new shoes, I'll buy this new shirt, I'll do this, do that. When it's stuff that you don't actually need, it's just you're kind of bored, and I don't know, like that gives you some sort of, it gives you that instant gratification. It gives you that little bit of fulfillment for 2 seconds. And
that's where you can also start to identify your behaviors as well, of where you start to spend money, or where you're like, oh, I'm noticing that I'm spending a lot on this irregularly or very regularly. And then you can kind of go, okay, this is going to be where there's an importance. It's like us, if you broke that down, it's like our grocery bill is crazy. But is that something that we're deciding that we're okay with? Okay, then if we want to still have these, percentages everywhere, then what are we willing to take out in order to have this be the grocery bill, and we want to do that? Okay, then we need to adjust everywhere else.
Because if you have a goal of wanting to have more money for whatever else, you're probably going to have to make some sacrifices.
Yes.
So you're going to have to choose, and it's all about, how much money do you want to have to be able to put towards savings or investments or whatever? Because the more that you can put towards it, the quicker that stuff can build and you can get to that goal. So, like, what's more important, the $200 a month on clothes, or being able to, buy a house sooner than what your current trajectory is, if there even is one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think the last thing that I'll say about budgeting before we can maybe get into the savings portion and how you should go about that, or how we would go about that. Budgeting, I think, has such a negative spin on it. I think when you hear the word budget, it's like it's limiting. It's you have to stay under this limit. You have to only spend this much or whatever. Budgeting should be rebranded to like money management, or like it gives you a sense of freedom simply because you know what the fuck is going on. That is one thing that I got right away when I started budgeting. Was I was such in this fear spiral about money and lying to myself of you're broke, you're broke, you're broke. It's like math isn't going to lie to me. These numbers are not going to lie to me. That time that I'm freaking out over getting the $6 whatever, like, shut up. It's fine. Like, and you know that it's fine, and you can go back and check, and every month you can make sure that you are staying ahead of your emotional spirals about this, because the numbers are the numbers. So I think it's a way to give yourself freedom and to give yourself clarity and to give yourself a direction on where you need to adapt, or maybe just like where you're doing awesome already, but you're not aware of it. That I think budgeting needs to be rebranded.
Yeah, I agree. I think when it comes to the savings thing, the biggest thing that I learned with that is after knowing kind of how much money you could potentially be putting away, picking a number that's realistic and that you'd be able to do every month. You know, if you're like, well, 1 month I saved, I was positive $500. I had $500 more than what I spent. The next month I had $20 less. The next month I had, 50 or something. You have to find a number that you can realistically do. You can't just go like, I'm going to save $1,000 a month. And it's like, realistically, that's not going to work. But finding a number that you can realistically do, and then taking that money and putting it into a different account, like at the beginning of the month immediately. Because what I learned was I was doing it where you go throughout the month.
Like whatever you had left over, kind of?
Whatever you had left over, and then you would maybe move that or do something like that. Well, some months you wouldn't be positive, or some months you wouldn't have enough of it. That doing it at the beginning of the month, I think, keeps you more on track. It
with
not only
budget.
Ensures you saved that money and put it to the side, but now you're paying attention more to your budget of like, okay, I need to make sure that like I break even or I stay above and have more because I already put my money to the side. It just keeps you more on track. I think just intuitively for some reason it does that, rather than the like, well, I want to save $100 a month and I'll just wait till the end of the month, see what I got left over, and I'll transfer it. Well, sometimes you don't have that $100, and now, like, you haven't been paying attention to the budget all month, and you don't have that money. To where if you're gonna save $100, like, it's very easy. Just transfer it to a different account, and boom, you have $100 in there, and then you don't touch it, and that's there. Like, you're good.
And I would say with the mindset, with the savings of that, I think a lot of people are either, I have to save this amount or nothing. To where, again, I'll get that once we get into the investing conversation of, I hear so much like, well, I only can save like $20 a month. I'm not going to invest it. It's like, that's still $20. That's still $20 that you can put into a savings account or whatever it is. Like,
yeah,
$20 is still $20. Well, still, like, whatever. It's also about the behavior of it. You're creating the behaviors around money of, I'm disciplined to spend this. I'm also disciplined to save this. And that's another Ramsey thing that he talks about is like, okay, I don't care if it takes you a freaking year to do it. Having 2 sets of savings, of starting with what he calls like your emergency account, which I think for most people is probably very helpful to get rid of any sort of fear, or life happens. Like, you need something with what else all the time, like needing something with your car, or something happens with your car, you need to get it fixed, or your kid needs something, your school's field trip comes up and you got to pay for something. Having $1,000 put away that's your zero. You're not touching that. Then he would say after that, building up 3 to 6 months of everything that you spend in a month. That comes after you're figuring out your budget, because then you will know what you need for 3 months of living your life. And I think with the savings of that goes back to what I said. What helped me moving to California was there's a buffer there.
Yeah, there's a relief knowing like shit hits the fan. Like I have money put away that I can survive for X amount of months.
And then what decisions are you going to make day to day because you know that you have that set up?
Well, and that's the preparation, the planning for the future. Like we've been saying this whole time is having enough money put away where if something bad happened or whatever, like you're okay to survive for a couple months. There's so many people that are redlining all the time. That's like, if something were to happen, like you'd be screwed. And that's just not a situation that anybody wants to be in. But again, that's where you need to do actionable things to put yourself in the situation to have that. You know, some people go like 3 to 6 months of expenses. That's insane. Like I spend $5,000 a month. You're telling me I got to save up $15,000? It's like, yeah, if you want to be safe, like, again, this
also,
idea of like,
why you like?
why not
maybe
you?
Maybe you're spending $5,000 a month.
Why can't you do it? Like what's holding you back? What's the issue? You don't want to stop spending money on bullshit stuff? Like that's the excuse that you have. If you don't make a lot of money, okay, great. Then why are you spending $5,000 a month?
Yeah.
Like there's no excuse for it. It's just you don't want to take the time and the effort to manage this situation. Because you can do it. It might take a little while, but you're not getting any progress with what you're doing now. So why not do this to get progress to where you want to go?
So far we have the budgeting, understanding calories in, calories out, breaking down what your budget looks like so that it's comfortable for you. You understand, you fully can review and look at it and see your behaviors, understand what could be adjusted if it needs to be adjusted. Saving a baseline of your life.
Yeah.
What's maybe the 3 to 6 months, or like a time frame,
what
you feel comfortable with.
Like save up a certain amount of money that you feel comfortable with, that if something were to happen, you'd have enough time that would hold you over and you'd be able to figure stuff out or whatever. And to me, like the next thing that comes into play is the investing stuff.
Yeah. Because to me, that is the same. That's the same word as savings.
Oh, see, I see it as different. I see it as different. I think the savings is to be able to have money easily accessible that you can get to in a pinch or need it, to where.
I'm sorry. I should clarify it better. It's in the same. Like, when I guess I take me as a kid, hearing investing is like only people with money do that. It's like,
sure,
this should be an average person thing that you are implementing into your life.
Yeah.
No matter what age, no matter what income you have.
I think with the investing thing, it's scary. It's like there's a lot going on with it, and there's a lot that you could know about it, or that there's just, it's presented as so complicated, and it's like, don't even bother. It's too complicated. Like either you can have enough money to pay somebody to do that for you, or you stay away from it, to where it's so easily accessible now for everybody. And it's such a tool that you could use, and it's, I don't know, it's something that's so simple once you just get in the groove of it, because it's just like putting money into a savings account. It's you transfer money into this thing, you move the money into this account, and now you're investing. Boom, done. It's not like this big ordeal like it used to be, where you had to go to a broker and you had to tell the broker, I wanted to buy shares in this, and like you give them money, and then like they give you a fucking ticket, and you take that back home, and then you're holding up your little certificate that says I have this many shares in this company, and blah blah blah. It's like, it's so much simpler now, and again, like it's something that should be taught, and so baseline, just like a checking, a savings account, just like which that's not even told anymore. Like take 15-20% of your paycheck and put it into savings. You know, we're so far removed from that even now that used to be like the baseline, that I think if you can do that, even wonderful. If you can't, you should maybe look at how much you're spending because it's going to be hard to make any headway if you can't save 20% of your income. That shows you like how much money you're spending or how little income that you make, that you can't put 20% of it away. But the investing part, it's like for every single person, if you don't want to know anything about it, like just start putting money into the S&P 500. It's the 500 biggest companies. It's an index fund. It's 500 biggest companies in our New York Stock Exchange. And it's the safest thing you could probably do. Every investor, whether it's, Warren Buffett or the amateur investor, their target is the S&P 500. What they're trying to do is beat the S&P 500. That is the average that everybody's trying to beat all the time. So you could just put your money into the average. That on average makes about 12% of your money a year. You put your money into that every single month. That's going to grow. And on average, it's going to make 12% a year. 1 year, it maybe makes 23. 1 year, it maybe makes -6 and you lose money. But on average, over its 100 plus years of existence, has made 12% a year. That's an insane amount of money that your money could be making every single day, every single month, every single year. And again, it's just like, that's for rich people. They do that. Like, we don't. And I think that sucks so much because there's so many people that could be making so much money just simply by transferring money into a different account. Just like you would transfer money into savings. All you have to do is transfer it to a different account, and now that money's making you 12% a year. Mm-hmm. And it's like they want to complicate it so much because they want to keep you out of it. Conspiracy theory. They want to keep you out of it. Like,
ding, 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 ding.
They don't want you to be making money that easily. They want you to struggle and to have all these issues and these problems. But it's extremely simple to do. It should be baseline just like savings. And I think you can come up with your own kind of number, percentage, or whatever you feel comfortable with doing, because it can be scary at first, but I think once you start to see the benefit of it year after year, and that's the one where like you put it there and you leave it, you don't touch it. This isn't the savings account where an emergency happens and you pull that stuff out, because if you're checking it all the time and you're seeing, or something comes up and you go look at your, investing account and it's actually showing, oh wow, I'm actually down like 2%. I should just take this money out and use it for this emergency because it's not even making me money anyways. Like, this is the thing that pays off 20 years, 30 years down the road, that it's the set it, forget it. Like,
and that's another thing why I think people don't do it, is again, that not thinking for the future.
Right.
And why I want it to be such a part of this conversation is we are all going to get old. We are all going to want to retire. We are all going to get to the point where we wish we had more money than we do. Whether that's right now, that's, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, everybody needs to be building towards something. And I know that maybe seems kind of crazy. It's like, if you're not ambitious or you like your life or whatever, but still, we are humans. We need to evolve. We need to be continuing to get better. And even from a sadder standpoint, like, we're decaying. Your body is dying every single day. You are not going to be able to be the person that you are right now in 60, 70, 80 years. Like, you are prepping for that old version of you in the nursing home. I don't care if you're 26 years old. You're prepping for that version of you that you don't have the opportunity to go make more money. You don't have the opportunity to get another job. You don't have the opportunity to create more income for yourself. You have to do that now while you're well and able, so that when you're freaking 96 in the nursing home, you're like, I'm done. I did it. And if you're really lucky, you have built wealth to be able to leave for family behind you. But that doesn't happen unless you start doomsday prepping for now. Unless you start prepping for that later version of yourself. Like it is a compounding interest, just like the investing conversation. But like you have to start creating the behaviors and creating the disciplines so that it's not a choice. It just becomes what you do. And that's why I say I want investing to be such a baseline of knowledge for, say, our kids. As it should not have to be a choice. It should just be what you are doing with your money.
Well, and this again goes to the like, what are the wealthy people doing?
Yeah.
This is what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like they're investing in the stock market. They're saving money, investing in real estate. Like they are taking their money and putting it in places that makes them more money. Mm-hmm. They're not taking it and putting it in places that makes them less or just runs out and becomes zero. Like that's how they continue to make more money and have more money is by putting their money into appreciating assets.
And again, poor person behavior, that is what I see a lot. And this is a crazy scenario that stood out to me, but it's like this kind of happens a lot. We were talking about, I was with a group of, I guess, my industry type of people, and they were talking to this younger kid who was maybe 19 or something, 20, and they were talking about how, like, you know, setting up retirement accounts and setting up, you know, investments and whatever. And they were like, well, he can't, one of the people was like, he can't do that. He doesn't make any money. As we are sitting in a restaurant, in a bar, and I'm like, really? Because he just bought a $7 drink and he's going to have a couple more of these. So he's spending over $20 just with us right now. It's like, so he can afford that, but he can't put $10 a month. That's what we were talking about initially. It's like, he can't put $10 a month into an investment. Like, he doesn't make any money. It's like, he just spent $7 right now on that one singular drink. No, that's not an excuse, because now we're setting up the stage for those younger people or for other people that don't make a lot of money or are not rich. It's like, again, you're either poor or you're rich in my mind. That we're setting up the stage for those people of, oh, unless you're rich, you can't be doing these things. You can't set yourself up. You can't be investing. You can't thinking about your future because you're surviving day to day. There is a very tiny amount of people. Well, I shouldn't say that. There is a large portion of people that are surviving day to day, but I guarantee they are not listening to this podcast. If you are listening to this, you are probably not the person that is truly, truly surviving day to day. It's a lot of people that need to be adjusting their behaviors.
We just watched a podcast where it was a clip of a guy eating human leg. That's not you.
That's not you.
He ain't watching podcasts.
That's not you. So it's like, yeah, this kid just bought a $7 drink, and you're telling me that he can't put $10 once a month into investing? That's a bunch of trash, and it's an excuse. And it's a way to keep you... It's limiting yourself. It's something that is so easy. It's like you said, it's like to set up a simple investment portfolio.
Yeah, it doesn't need to even be anything.
Just like, look up a goddamn YouTube video on how to do it.
Yeah, I mean,
if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. I promise you.
If you're able to figure out how to watch this podcast, you're able to figure out how to do this. Like, it's not difficult.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that, like, I mean, it's like you go to fidelity.com, you create a brokerage account, you find a S&P 500 index fund, and you start putting money into that.
Yeah, if you create an Instagram account, you can create this account.
Yeah, it's not difficult. It's just like creating a bank account.
Yeah.
It's not difficult. And I think going off of what you're saying of the $10 a month investing in that, like you had already said before, people think that's too little of money. That's not going to amount to anything. That's not going to do anything. I just don't. That right there, that thought process is your short-term thinking coming out.
Yeah.
You're not thinking long-term. You're thinking that, well, if I only invest $10 a month for the rest of my life, it's not going to amount to much. It's like, well, that's the problem, is you're only thinking about $10 a month for the rest of your life. What you don't understand is the behavior that this is going to create, like you had already said. To eventually, you've been doing this for maybe a year. Now you have $120 invested into an investment account that's also gained interest. You don't think that that's going to push you more and drive you more to make more money or to be able to put more money into those accounts because of you being able to see that it makes money and you didn't even have to do anything. You just had to put it into this other account. it's going to drive you. And that's what this is teaching you, is the behavior. So even if it's just $10 a month, and even if it's just so you don't fuck things up right away, just doing $10 a month, do that. But let it drive you to want to make more money or to cut spending so that you can put more and you can invest more, and then you can you start to do that for years and years, and you start to see the payoffs of it. The relief that comes in of, oh, my future is getting more and more like easy. And I can see it right here in this bank account thing.
And I'm almost not doing anything.
Right. All I'm simply doing is taking whatever money that I've agreed upon or that I've said I'm going to do and put it into a different account, and I do that every month. For one, you probably don't even notice it coming out of your bank account, because like you said, you can spend $20 on drinks one night, but you won't take that money and put it into an investing account. Like, you won't even know that $20 is gone. It's just this, it's kind of the poor mindset. It's like,
it is.
But I could have that fun night with the drinks. It's like, yeah, instant gratification. Congratulations. That's so great. What's your future look like though? You got any money when you're 65? Or are you going to still be having 3 drinks at $20 a pop? And now you got to work till you're 70, 80 because you didn't set up for the future.
Well, and that's kind of like just an easy visual for people. Like, we all talk about, interest rates right now are a hot button topic, but it's like, okay, think of the interest in a negative way. Think of interest of, I only spent, this much, I'm paying this much on my car payment, but I'm not even to the principal yet. Like, I'm just paying interest on this freaking car payment. It's like the amount of interest that starts to build over tiny little amounts of money or big amounts of money. And you realize, like, holy shit, like, I'm mostly paying interest on things. Now think about that in the reverse of the positive of all that interest is just coming to you. It's just compounding. And the more that you put in, the bigger amount that it's building interest off of. It's compounding more money off of that. It's the
same thing.
As
reverse.
Much as you think that's such a shitty aspect of that, now imagine if you got all of it.
Yeah. Now think of it, instead of a car payment, a $300 car payment, and fucking $200 of it is interest. Now it's a $300 investment, and over time
you got $200.
Yeah, that's just gaining you more and more money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just $300 that sits there, and then you put another and it sits there. It's earning interest and paying you.
Yeah.
The future.
So budgeting, understanding where your money is going, what money is coming in, how to categorize it, building that behavior of also understanding that. Starting to save, no matter how little it is.
Yeah, I think you got to protect yourself first.
Building up an amount that you feel comfortable with so that you're able to then start making day-to-day choices that are built for success and not surviving. Investing, a very simple thing, but it's a need to do. I must. It's so simple and easy to not do it.
I think to emphasize it even more, this should be in the same conversation as, like, you need to save money.
Yeah.
You should save money just in case, or just for this or that. Like, you want to buy a house, you should save. The investing thing should be the same thing. It's like, with us, the conversations that we've had, like having kids, that's something that we want to start immediately, because from the moment they're 0 to then 18 years old, 20 years old, that's 20 years of investing they could get. And that's only 20 years old. Mm-hmm. And that's something, like, as parents, would be so fulfilling and so rewarding to be able to do for your kids, that you've been able to, even if it's a freaking $100 a month, like, that is going to, over 20 years, that's going to be a big chunk of change that they can use for college, they could use for whatever. Like, that is not a lot of money, and it's just the behavior. $100 a month, that's not a ton of money to be able to do that every single month for 20 years, and your kids could have I mean, God, I wish I could do the math.
I know,
like,
phones. Everybody look up right now. What is at least 12% of my...
Yeah.
Well, I guess every year you're getting more and more, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's... And then you think about that for yourself. Like 20 years from now, what that could be, 30 years, 40 years.
Well, what did they say? Like, isn't that a stat where if you start putting in $100 a month...
$100 a month at 25 years old, at 65, you'll have approximately $1.7 million. $100 a month.
Putting it in there and letting it sit.
$100 a month. You start at 25. It's basically a 40-year thing. 25 years old when you turn 65, you'll have 1.7 million. Right around that range. That is so fucking simple.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's not, oh, you're getting in there and you're moving it around, you're paying attention to it, and you're understanding it. No.
That's putting it in there and never looking at it again.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That's setting up one Instagram account and then forgetting about it.
And maybe surprisingly to people, that's actually the way that you want to approach it, is putting it in and not looking at it. Because you get emotional when you start looking at it. You want to pull it out and you move it, or like, you watch the news one time and they're talking about, oh, how the stock market went down this many points and blah, 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 and you're like, oh, I got to take my money out now. It's crashing. No. Put it in there, leave it, don't think about it, don't listen to news, don't listen to somebody on the street or whatever. Put it in there, leave it. It will be there and a lot more money by the time that you actually want to use it or utilize it, or it's been 30, 40 years.
Yeah. I think my closing thought on all of this is money is a tool. Money is the access to opportunities. Money is happiness because it gives you more opportunities and it gives you more experiences and it gives you more comfortability. That time to take advantage of it. Time to take control and to understand it and to have it work for you and you not work for it.
Well, I think it's one of those things that people just kind of float. And they're like, yeah, money does what it does in a weird way. Like, they don't have control over it. They don't know how to manage it. They don't take the time to, like, do the things that we're talking about of budgeting and being very strategic and putting your money in places and, like, doing the things yourself rather than it just, like, I look at my bank account and it's like, well, it says I got $1,000 and this thing's only 100, so I guess I have enough money to afford that.
Yeah,
it's
if
like,
you're doing that, that's not budgeting. No,
you can't just look at your bank account and go, well, it says I got enough money to buy this thing, so I'm going to buy it. It's like, that's not setting up for the future or planning for the future. Like, that's a very right now way to approach it. And you're really, really, really relying on getting promotions, getting jobs that make you more money in order to, like, increase your way of living or lifestyle or whatever, to where you can do actionable things. It's like we said, teachers, they're the second on the list as far as careers that have the most millionaires in our country. Mm-hmm. Second most.
And they're making $50,000 a year.
And they're making $50,000 a year. Like, it's because they know how to manage and budget, and they do these things of investing and putting money in places that they should, and avoiding making big purchases. That's one of the positives of teachers, and their mindset is like, we don't make a lot of money, so we can't spend money on Mercedes and all this other
fluff stuff.
They go like, we need to plan, and we need to make sure that we have money for the future because we don't get paid a lot.
Or the summer months.
Or the summer. Yeah. We don't have money in the summer, so we need to find a way to make money in the summer. It's like, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
If a freaking teacher is becoming millionaires, like, there's no
excuse. You can too.
Yeah.
It is. We want this episode to be encouraging and hopefully give you the power back if you feel like you've lost it, or learn it if you've never had it.
Yeah, or just even to be like, wow, I really haven't thought about this. Like, because maybe you're somebody that has, like, they went to college and they got their degree. They're in their job, and they've always just made more than
what they've needed.
Than what they've spent and they've needed. And they maybe are in a job that gives them a retirement.
And if you're that person, I want you to thrive.
Yeah, you could be doing even better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I have to say.
All right. See you later.
Cha-ching.